That's all he does, baby. Woo! Welcome into 104.5 The Zone. It's all coming back to me now. 32-27, the final in Houston yesterday. I was there to take in the sights and sounds. We'd be happy to take your reaction throughout the course of the show. Explosive passing plays in this economy, 3 of them. Yesterday, 6 in the last 3 games. The Titans finally get right. They get their first divisional win of the year. They get Will Levis's first divisional win of his career. And Will Levis goes to Houston and does the thing that not a single solitary soul, don't lie to me and say that you did, expected him to do, which is go into Houston and outplay C.J. Stroud. 615-737-1045, the number. No sad boys today, so I won't hear you. If you call me and say that you're pissed about the win, I will not fight you because I will not incite violence, but I will yell at you. So I wanted to say that on the front end. I will repeat it every hour. We got Lucas and Jackson here. I don't know if they're going to back me up or not, but do not call me today and tell me you're pissed about being out of the Travis Hunter sweepstakes or something like that, because we will have words.
Yeah, we had to nip that in the bud yesterday early on in Titans Talk Back and just remind folks that it is literally the jobs of the players and coaches to try to win every game that they play. So we will not entertain talk of being disappointed that they did not win.
Got to go 3-8 to go 9-8, boys.
That's true. Well, that's not really true because you can definitely go 9-8 without starting 3-8. But you got to get that third win to get that 9th win.
You are more than welcome to not start 3-8. Yes, that is in fact the case. But
if I had told you that Will Levis would throw a pick six and be sacked 8 times, that the Titans would have a depleted secondary with Amani Hooker dealing with illness. Brian Callahan told Mike Keith, the network postgame, that Hooker could barely stand up without throwing up yesterday.
Yeah, he told us in the postgame press conference that every time he tried to get up, he made the trip. He was testing it out pregame, but they didn't put him on the injury report until like 11:15 in the morning.
So if I told you that, 8 sacks, a pick six, and 10 points would be handed to the Houston Texans off of special teams. Yeah. So overall, you take 8 sacks and you gift wrap 17 points to the Houston Texans on the road. What would you have projected would have happened in that game?
Oh, blowout. I mean, blowout. Listen to me, okay? The national anthem plays at NRG Stadium, and I'm sitting between PK and Tehran. Tehran does not have time to sit down after the national anthem plays before the Texans have returned the opening kickoff 80 yards to the Titans' 19-yard line and thrown a 19-yard touchdown to tight end Cade Stover. Like, you don't even have time to get yourself situated and settled before the special teams tries to actively nuke you. And then the Texans take the 7-0 lead. I think there's like 13 seconds of game off the board at that point. But you know what?
They found a way.
They did the thing that I have not seen them do very often, and they showed a little bit of fight in against Minnesota, but not to that extent. 3 consecutive scoring drives and 17 unanswered points in that first half is not something that I've seen them do. In fact, we all looked around and made the joke with one another in the press box. Okay, are they done? Like 17 points. Is it done for the day? They go 6 plays, 28 yards. It stalls out because Will Levis gets sacked by, I believe, Will Anderson. 51-yard field goal. By the way, shout out Nick Folk. 51, 56. He made 3 of them on the day. He was consistently good throughout the course of it. And then they get the 10-play, 89-yard drive, which you just heard the cap of, 38-yard touchdown reception by whom? Nick Westbrook-Akina, wide receiver 1 for all time. I don't care what you say to me. We will call Keith Bullock at some point, whether it be this week. I don't necessarily want to bother Keith if he's doing Thanksgiving things this week, but we will follow up with him at a later date.
Keith Bullock, who, for context, people might have no idea what you were talking about, took to Twitter to say that your football IQ is low after you said that you would take NWI over the likes of Zay Flowers and George Pickens and so on.
Well, and I told Keith after the fact that if I actually had football IQ, then I would be unstoppable. We all have to have some flaws somewhere in our game. But either way, so they go 10 plays, 89 yards, 38-yard touchdown to Nick Westbrook-Akina. 6 plays, 95 yards, and the 10-yard rushing touchdown by Tony Pollard, who was again great yesterday. That 63-yard Calvin Ridley reception, which you will hear later on in the broadcast, got them in that game, or kept them in that game, and gave them ultimately the lead. It was back and forth throughout the course of it. Texans finally get going. They get Nico Collins for a 5-yard touchdown after they drive 10 plays, and I think it was 75, 78 yards down the field. I felt so bad for the safety. Brown, what's his first name?
Mike Brown?
Mike Brown. I wanted to say Matt Brown, and I knew that wasn't right. Mike Brown having the same, not the same exact play, but having the same opportunity to smoke a wide receiver in the end zone the way that he did to Jordan Addison. And he pulled up. I mean, I don't know, you were, I assume, were here watching it. You did Titans Talk Back yesterday. He pulled up. Whether that would have prevented a touchdown reception or not, who's to say, but that's an impact from last week's officiating, clearly affecting a defensive player in that game, which I think is garbage, but that's neither here nor there. So they get the ball back. The exchange gets botched. Levis gets credited with a fumble. And then Titans legend Mario Edwards recovers. It gives the Texans the opportunity to tie it with under 2 minutes to play. It's like 1:49. Levis sacked 2 more times on the ensuing drive. They have to punt, and then Jarvis Brownlee makes his first interception of his rookie season, his first interception as an NFL pro. Now they try to give it away again, right? Because Levis gets sacked 2 more times, and to Lucas's point, he got sacked 8 times, 7 times in the first half, 1 time in the second half. So credit to Levis, credit to the offensive line for kind of correcting or at least trying to prevent those things from actively killing drives, and that's when Folk hits the 56-yard field goal. They take the 20-17 lead into halftime, and I mean, you don't feel great about them, but you're saying, all right, they've got it. They've got it today. The Texans may not, because the Texans, I mean, you kind of scoffed at me on Friday when I said, no, this is a flawed team.
No. Not that I was scoffing at it being a flawed team. Every team in the NFL is a flawed team.
No, but you made it sound like the way that they kept it close against the Cowboys and basically busted it open in the fourth quarter on Monday Night Football.
Well, I disagreed with that because they ran all over the Cowboys in the first quarter, jumped out to a 14-0 lead, and the game never felt in question to me after that. Cowboys did some things to try to get back in it, but you said the Texans were a vulnerable team.
They are a vulnerable team.
And I did not consider them to be a vulnerable team.
And that absolutely played itself out in this game last night in all the different places where we expected them to be vulnerable, because that's the same places they've been vulnerable all year. It's just incumbent upon somebody to take advantage of it. And that's exactly what the interior pass rush did yesterday. You saw Sweat get involved. Harold Landry chasing C.J. Stroud out of the back of the end zone. And Stroud throws 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions that give the Titans life in that game. They don't ultimately win the turnover battle because Levis throws the pick 6. They've got the fumble, and Jaquan Jackson also fumbles a punt, which, again, the special teams. When do you want to talk about special teams? You want to talk about special teams today or later in the week?
Later in the hour.
Okay,
but
that's fine.
Will Levis was fantastic in the first half. He completed his first 11 passes, was 11 of 12 at halftime for 177 yards and a touchdown, including that 63-yarder to Ridley, which was a phenomenal throw. But they took a bunch of punches and...
Well, they took a bunch of sacks.
And punched back, right?
They took a bunch of sacks. Fantastic. I mean, he made some incredible throws. I thought he was above average, which is exactly what you're looking for him to kind of take the next step, right? But he's still got to do some things to improve, and the sacks do kill a lot of the things that they were trying to get accomplished. So I'm not going to go fantastic with him, but he was good enough, and you don't win that game without him. He was a big reason, if not the most important reason, why you went and won that game yesterday on the road against the division rival that you seem to have the most contention with as of late, right? I didn't see the Hannah McNair comments. Apparently, she took some shots at the Titans as an organization, said, the Texans, we have our fans back in Houston now. We don't care. They're just the Titans or whatever she ended up saying.
She said, we've taken over Houston now. We've taken our fans back. They are just the Titans now.
Well, I mean, there may have only been like 20 or 30 Titans fans in the building yesterday, because it's as small as a Titans fan contingent as I've seen in Houston and several games that I've done there, but there were no Texans fans to be found late in that game, especially after the kicker, Kaimi Fairbairn, misses that 26-yard chip shot. He just goes wide left with it, which lets the Titans hold on to that lead. Now, they give the Texans another opportunity to drive, but the defense puts on the best show that I've seen them collectively put on this season. And to your point about not having Amani Hooker, Darryl Worley went down in this game, but he did return, so you're down to like Julius Wood. You're working with your 4th and 5th safety at certain points in that game, and they rolled with the punches, and they ended up having more firepower than the Houston Texans, who we all consider to be one of the best teams in the AFC. And again, they were flawed, and you exposed their flaws the way that we've been waiting for you to expose flaws in other teams, lesser teams, all year long. We'll talk about this later on in the noon hour, and I did this last night on primetime, but it's Will Levis's best performance as a Titan.
Most important.
It's his best.
Yeah.
Across the board, from all the boxes that need be checked, that is his best performance as a Tennessee Titan. Now, whether it ends up, you don't have to make any determinations on the quarterback for the rest of the season or for 2025. The only thing that you have to do is talk about his performance yesterday. And that, I think, is the context that we're going to move forward with. So we'll do stock up and stock down coming up next. Your phone calls are welcome to get included. Also, the F&M Bank chat, also at your disposal, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and on Twitch. I haven't looked at my email yet this morning, but I haven't seen anything. Has there been an update on, okay, we've got an 11 o'clock press conference, Jackson tells me, with Brian Callahan, so we will carry that live for you on the show. The Titans get it done in Houston, 32-27. I'm Buck Rising. It's 104.5 The Zone. Welcome back to the show. We are fueled by Hattie B's Hot Chicken. By the way, Hattie B's doing a cool thing with Jeff Simmons. He was on the morning show today, yeah?
He was at 9 o'clock.
Did he
on the podcast?
Did he talk about what he is doing at Nissan Stadium tomorrow?
Some pretty cool stuff going on.
Okay, so it's Jeff and his foundation, Give 'em a Reason. They're hosting a Thanksgiving event with our good friends at Hattie B's and Backfield in Motion. It's a really cool 62 middle and high schoolers with a Thanksgiving. They're going to host 62 middle and high schoolers for this Thanksgiving event tomorrow at Nissan Stadium. It's going to include a buffet by Hattie B's. It's going to have a roundtable talk for students to hear from various current and former NFL players, college representatives, and other leaders in the Nashville community. And after the event, each student will be given a turkey and sides from Hattie B's and a pair of Crocs. How about that? Is Bert going?
Where's Bert?
Well, he's probably trying to grift off somebody less fortunate than him. He's probably trying to steal their Crocs to take home for Thanksgiving. But it's going to be a cool thing. I'm going to stop by and check it out and see all the good work that Jeff and Hattie B's are doing in the local community before I go to the Jelly Roll Show tomorrow. It's going to be a good time. Stock up, stock down. You ready? Okay.
Trading floor is open.
Excellent. Well, don't know if he's getting traded, but Will Levis, stock up. Outplayed C.J. Stroud. I don't know how many of us would have had that on our bingo card yesterday, but certainly he got it done in spectacular fashion. It was efficient. The pick six does exist in the box score, and he did get credited with losing a fumble. I wasn't sure if they were going to give that fumble to him or if they were going to give that fumble to Tony Pollard, but Pollard still, I don't think, has a lost fumble on the year with Levis getting that. He finishes the game 18 of 24, 278, 2 touchdowns, and 1 interception, a rating of 123.3. He did take 8 sacks. 4 losses of 41 yards. You know how many times he's been sacked in the last 3 games?
20.
20. That's 7 against the Chargers, 5 against the Vikings, and 8 more yesterday by the Houston Texans, who were salivating at the thought of bringing Will Levis down. They did get to him, but Will Levis was able to overcome.
Only 1 in the second half.
That is something that we are going to continue to talk about because at some point that is going to undermine them and they can't continue to exist that way. He kind of joked last night about, well, I wonder how many sacks I've taken for losses of 1 or 2 yards just because I'm trying to fight my way back to the line of scrimmage. But this is Will Levis yesterday talking about overcoming his mistakes.
Yeah, no, just put it behind me. I just made a good play. We got the ball back and can't really think about it. So, didn't make any necessarily huge plays myself after that, but I just put the ball in play and made the right decisions and let our guys, finish out that game. So just proud of how everyone finished.
You should be proud of him. He should be proud of himself. His teammates should be proud of him. His coaching staff should be proud of him. That's not an easy thing to do. He went to Houston, which is the place where his rookie season ended last year due to injury, and he won his first divisional game. He has not quarterbacked his team to a win before yesterday, as we've mentioned several times, since December 12th, 2023. Clearly wearing on him, as all the other adversity that he's faced this season have worn on him. And you know what? I know he was hype after the game, and they gave him the phone to talk to Titans fans on social media or stuff like that. Like he recorded a video for their Instagram story or something like that. I'm sure they put it out on Twitter too. And then, celebrated with his teammates in the locker room and then came to the podium with us and was very measured. It's as QB1 as he's presented, both on the field and off, at any point in his career. Again, does not mean that you have to crown him the franchise quarterback of the Tennessee Titans for all time. It does not mean that you have to, veer to extremes either way on Will Levis, because it wasn't perfect, but it doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be good enough to elevate the team. And yesterday, I can say with confidence that Will Levis helped elevate his team. He did sandbag them at some points with the, certainly in the first half with the sacks that were taken, and we'll see what Brian Callahan has to say about where blame should be evenly distributed between the offensive line, because J.C. Latham did not have his best day. Yesterday, he got a couple of times, and plenty of people are going to get got by the Houston Texans. They have a good pass rush unit that way. But I don't know that you could start a conversation about stock up, stock down anywhere with this team without starting first and foremost with Will Levis. He earned it.
Yeah, the good outweighed the bad on their way to a win. An actual watchable NFL win, right?
Oh my God! It felt like real football.
It was a real life win.
Yeah, 30 points. A real 30 points.
Right, a real 30 points.
Not a bunch of weird field goals and
Yes.
safety. Well, there was a safety, but you know.
No, not this, weird path to 30 where there's a safety and then a weird onside free kick situation that suddenly gives you the ball at the 10 and you get a chance to punch it in on fourth down in a Monday Night Football game where Miami has basically half its roster and there's another better Monday night game that everybody else is watching. So, yes, this was a real-life 30-point NFL victory where Will Levis looked like a real-life NFL quarterback, and Titans fans have been longing for that all season long. This was not a grind-out and overtime win against a 2 or 3 win New England Patriots team. This is a legitimate road win against one of the better teams in the AFC. So he has built on each of the last 3 performances, right? In L.A., it was, he didn't turn it over. Right, he was efficient, didn't turn the ball over, still lost by 10, but there were some good things there. Now do it again. And he did. He was better against Minnesota, and then he was better against Houston. There has been a steady incline in the last 3 games. So there's kind of a trajectory forming here, and he has to do it for the rest of the season.
Yeah.
But we said it has to be a dramatic turnaround before he came back from that shoulder injury to even put any pause to people that are ready to be done with him. And that dramatic turnaround, hasn't totally happened because there's still a lot of games to be played, but he has undeniably at least set out on the path to that with these last 3 performances.
It doesn't get more dramatic than yesterday. I mean, from start to finish, I asked him yesterday about just the roller coaster ride of that entire game, from literally the opening kickoff to the way that thing finished. Rare that they get to be on the other side of chasing a quarterback out of the back of the end zone or putting a quarterback who's clearly chasing in a bad position. And, they had plenty of special teams miscues of their own. Certainly yesterday, they survived them. The Texans had special teams miscues, particularly that Fairbairn missed field goal with very little time left in the game. I think about a minute 37 or 39 is when he missed the field goal.
Yep.
All these things do is continue to give him hope. Do you have another stock up candidate before we start on the stock down?
Yeah, Brian Callahan. This was finally a proof of concept win, a proof of concept victory for Callahan. They were extremely balanced, right? It wasn't their highest net yardage of the season. They had 369 net yards, 237 in the air, 132 on the ground. Tony Pollard averaged 5 yards per carry. But we saw some explosiveness in the passing attack, guys getting schemed open, Will Levis taking advantage of it. I thought it was a very well-managed game, well-called game by Brian Callahan, and a proof of concept win. And as we've said, it could not have come against a better team in the eyes of your owner.
Yeah, I said this last night on Twitter, but, they're 3-8. Like, let's not get nuts. They have a lot more work to do. They got to go on the road against a Washington team that might be reeling a little bit, but can definitely cause you some problems. I know Jaden Daniels threw a couple interceptions yesterday in a loss to the Cowboys, but they are still frisky enough to give you a game for sure. I believe they're 7-5 right now after that loss yesterday to Dallas.
Yeah, it's their 3rd straight loss. Crazy game.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to catching up on all the games from yesterday because I heard I missed a pretty wild slate of Sunday games while covering the Titans-Texans, but I got, for once I got to cover a wild one of my own while also, seeing all the different results playing out in the background of the Titans and Texans. But I love your point about Callahan and company. They didn't, again, we're going to have a conversation about Colt Anderson at some point. And I am of the opinion that even though he's not fielding punts himself or not on the coverage unit himself, that he is ultimately the person responsible for that unit and that, it doesn't have to be in season, but at the end of the season, there need to be serious discussions had about whether or not this person is the best possible option to oversee a critical critical phase of the game that continues to cost them or try and cost them opportunities to win games of consequence. Because there have been games where we've seen that proof of concept, to your point, on offense, on defense, but then special teams will just absolutely blow them up.
Something nukes it, right?
And they tried to blow them up again last night. But, I mean, even down to I feel bad for Jaquan Jackson, but also he's been pretty disappointing as a returner in all of this stuff, too. So there's blame plenty to be dispersed, but for sure for Brian Callahan, for the coaching staff, that is a stock-up moment, because the best way to salvage, maybe not salvage your jobs, because I don't know that they were definitively going to get fired or going to definitively get retained at the end of the year, but the best way to buy yourself some grace with this particular organization is to go to Houston and beat them.
Find a little pressure release valve, for this week. This week, we're talking about a big win in Houston. Yeah, you're still 3-8, and you got to go do it in Washington. Before you get to your stock down, this comment on the FNM Bank chat from Dustin.
Are you going to do it? Because I saw it too.
Yeah, can we just address this? Dustin Gill on the FNM Bank chat. Levis will never get us to the Super Bowl, so why the hell are we arguing? We have to move on. The most Madden, just outside, easy to say opinion you could possibly have, right? That, well, if you don't get your Josh Allen or your Lamar Jackson or your Pat Mahomes, then you might just, what's the point if you don't have a guy that's elite in the top upper tier of NFL quarterbacks? You just keep bottoming out until you find that lightning in a bottle guy. It's the most unrealistic view. You just need a guy that can help you play winning football, right? Just start there and then go from there to try and build a championship contending organization. But this idea that, well, if you don't have a guy that's in the top 1% of NFL quarterbacks, what's the point? What's the point of even doing this, right? Just keep bottoming out and getting the number one pick until you find that guy. It's such a ridiculous, unrealistic view of things in the NFL. Just find you a guy that can play winning football. And Will Levis played winning football on Sunday. He's got to keep doing it, but he's been doing it for the last couple weeks.
You feel better?
I do. I'm just...
I thought it was a moment of growth that I read that comment and I moved on from it, and I wasn't going to pay any mind to it because, like you tell me all the time, don't get caught up in what one person says in the chat. Don't make it about everybody when it's just the one person.
Yeah.
So I'm glad it wasn't me. Well, if you're Levis, there's probably some sentiment of that. But here's the thing before we do some stock down, because there is stock down from this game. He has done well since he's come back, and they collectively have done well since he's come back, kind of insulating themselves a little bit from all the nonsense. And by nonsense, I include, people like us, right, who are tasked with talking about this on a regular basis and hyper-scrutinizing everything that they do well and everything that they do poorly, certainly more of the things that they do poorly than the things that they've done well here in the last couple of weeks and months, or just generally this season. But I do think that they, the thing that you hope that they pull from all the losing is something that Tony Pollard told us in the locker room last night, which is, there's a great deal of things to be learned in losses that you can't necessarily pull from wins. And so that kind of strength, it stiffens your resolve a little bit to know that people doubt you, that people don't believe in you, that people are leaving you for dead. And I think, honestly, I guess this is technically a stock up just generally for that locker room, that they decided that they weren't going to give up. How many of you left them for dead? I mean, certainly I have left them for dead several times this season. Hell, I thought they were dead in the water at 0-3 because history would tell us that teams that start that way, and especially the teams that were showing the flaws that this particular team did, should be, or it is reasonable to, leave them for dead. But they decided, no, we're not going to act like a 2-win football team. And I have tremendous respect for the mentality of, okay, we have 2 wins, but we wake up every day shocked by that. We know that there are things here that work, and there are certain things that have gone wrong, but that does not mean that the process entirely is rotten or flawed or incapable of providing us with the results that we seek, that we're seeking at this point. So I even though that's not the mindset that I myself have in certain situations, or certainly when I'm talking about football teams, I can see that opinion or see that perspective and have a tremendous amount of respect for it, because they fought their asses off yesterday. They really, really did. And I think that they deserve all the credit in the world for that. And, I'm not necessarily one who is going to overpraise them unless I think they deserve it. And I don't think it's overpraising them. I think that they went out there and got the job done. Stock down Colt Anderson. He did not get the job done. They have the 80-yard opening kickoff return against them. They have the muffed punt by Jaquan, or the fumbled punt return by Jaquan Jackson that the Houston Texans recover. They have just flaws consistently. I mean, they had another big return. I got up and went to the bathroom, and they had a huge return against them that got negated by penalty, and they're lucky that happened. Like, they're just bad. And again, I'm not a special teams expert. I don't know how to distribute the blame between players that don't execute and a coach that doesn't have the players in position to execute. But I know collectively that the special teams unit is, it's just rotten. To save Nick Folk and Morgan Cox, and even Stonehouse didn't have his best day until that final punt that they really needed him to have. And to his credit, he came through in the fashion that you expect him to, but I expect Ryan Stonehouse to perform at that level each and every time that he takes the field, and it was not his best day yesterday. They survived their special teams, and the person who I'm circling today as the biggest candidate for stock down is Colt Anderson.
The product has been so bad all season that the responsibility does fall on the special teams coordinator, but yesterday was an example of, at least for me, watching that thinking, okay, this is where it feels hard to draw that line between coaching and personnel, because Dameon Pierce runs right into a trap where he's surrounded by Titans players. Cedric Gray has him wrapped up and just can't bring him down and spins him out into the open field, and Pierce runs for another however many yards to get to that 80-yard return. That was one that I watched that play and thought, okay, I don't know what Colt Anderson could have done better about this particular play other than tackling drills with Cedric Gray. I don't know, because
oh my God, that was so bad.
That play was over, right? And it was just incredibly poor tackling by the part of that Titan special teams unit. And then Jaquan Jackson just fumbles. And maybe there is a coaching element because he does seem to continue to go side to side on these returns. A, he probably should have let that go into the end zone for a touchback. And B, when he did catch it, he's running sideline to sideline. Dude, get north and south. Get 5 or 6 yards. You're on your own 5-yard line. Just dive forward for a few yards.
But why doesn't he know that?
Right. No, for sure.
He's somebody
and that's
who's
fair.
been a returner his entire collegiate career.
Yeah.
I assume he did it in high school. What's happened?
You're right. There's no benefit of the doubt at this point.
They get none.
Yeah. And I know that there were special teams debacles across the NFL yesterday. The Commanders. Oh, my goodness, the Commanders. Seibert, the Commanders kicker. I don't know if he's going to be on the team next week. They gave up a kick return for a touchdown, and an onside kick got returned for a touchdown. The onside kick was because he missed another extra point in the game that would have tied it at the end. But, we can talk about all that when we preview the Commanders. But the Titans have been in a class of their own in terms of how poor special teams have been, yardage allowed this season. There's no benefit of the doubt.
Looking forward to this Titans-Commies game. I think that this has the opportunity to be all kinds of fun and weird.
Could be a weird one.
Listen, weird is normally more exciting than not. Yesterday was weird as hell. A bunch of weird stuff. You have a stock down?
I was going to say Jaquan Jackson, even though it kind of falls under special teams.
No, but I think it's worth highlighting him specifically.
Yeah, because, like we just mentioned,
lighting, not highlighting.
There are two, right? There was the one that he fields and then fumbles, and that directly results in a Texans field goal. So 10 points for the Texans can be attributed to Titans special teams issues. And then the other one that he fields at the 5, where he probably should have let it go, and then is going side to side instead of north to south. I will say Jackson is... I know he has gotten away with one or two, but he has been more sure-handed than Kyle Phillips, right? Or really feels like any of the punt returners of the last 2-3 years.
Low bar.
Absolutely.
And it's not even like you can swap him out, because Amani Hooker, who has had some experience with returning punts, it's not. And by the way, he also had a fumble the last time they tried that, changing out him for Kyle Phillips or something like that. It was hilarious to me to see Robert Woods, Titans legend, back there fielding punts yesterday.
Yeah. I saw Kyle Phillips fielding punts for the Eagles last night on Sunday Night Football.
I couldn't get the Southwest Wi-Fi. And I love Southwest. I love you to death. I'm a Southwest person till I die, but your Wi-Fi was cheeks yesterday on the flight home.
Brandon on the F&M Bank chat says they said on the TV broadcast that long kickoff run by Pierce was a schematic breakdown, and they highlighted what happened. I have the TV broadcast on, but I'm listening. I have Titans radio on in the studio, so I guess I missed that part. But
somebody suggested, because I know people had no love for Craig Aukerman at the end, especially with the way that Stonehouse got hurt. But somebody, I want to say it was Vidal on YouTube, suggested that we reach out to Craig Aukerman to see if he could provide some context. I don't know necessarily that he would be willing to take out a fellow NFL coach that way, but at least to somebody smarter than us, please God, explain. Or how about Mariani? Let's just call Mariani.
Yeah, let's call Mariani.
Mark, I know you're listening. I know you text me every time Lucas shades your grizz. Please take some time at some point in the next week to either join us on the radio show, or I'll figure out a time to talk to you, and we'll see if we can't work something out. I don't know what his schedule is. He's a very busy guy.
Coach Aukerman's busy, man. He's coaching up the Page High School wide receivers on their way to another 5A championship semifinal.
Well, I know also is a 104.5 The Zone listener. So, Aukerman, if you're out there, we'd love to talk to you about some things that are going wrong, because I'm not smart enough to break this down for people, and I would love to have somebody who is, or at least has experience doing it. We'll take your phone calls. I see several. Coming up next, 615-737-1045. The number. The Titans get it done in Houston, 32-27. I'm Buck Rising. It's 104.5 The Zone. Welcome back to the show. We are fueled by Hattie B's Hot Chicken. I do like the sound of funky music. I like the sound of good football, exciting football. Got a little bit of that yesterday. Got a lot of that yesterday. Got a lot of that this weekend. Exciting football, compelling results, the college stuff. It's honestly, I mean, I know it's not a shame. I know you're excited to have a couple of days off. We are not doing the radio show Friday.
We will not be here Friday or Thursday. There will be a lot of best of content from all the shows here on The Zone and obviously Westwood One coverage of NFL football and Thanksgiving.
Okay. We'll get to your phone calls right now here in just a second, 615-737-1045. But, yeah, it's kind of just for the purposes of how compelling the football was, college and pro, I kind of hate that we have a short week because there's so many different things to work through. But we'll still be doing the install this week. I'm still going to go to practice. They're having practice on Thanksgiving, so I'll be there to cover everything that's going on. So if you can't get it on the air, certainly we will give you some stuff via social media so you can get your content football fix there. 615-737-1045, the number like I mentioned. Let's start with Craig.
Hey there, Buck. Hey, thanks for this. I got two topics for you real quick. I'm going to digress for a second. I heard you talk about the things that Jeff Simmons is doing in the community, and my wife and I had the privilege of being at a Titans luncheon back when Mike Keith and Miss Amy introduced him the day after he got drafted, and what a class act that guy is and how he represents himself and the Titans organization and a big part of the Nashville community. So shouts out to Big Jeff.
Yes, absolutely. It's a really cool thing. I also just got an email that J.C. Latham is also going to do something with Second Harvest tomorrow. So it's cool to see the example that Jeff is setting for a lot of younger guys. And you know, J.C. is older than his years, his chronological years would indicate. So cool to see him doing good stuff there too. What else you got?
Yep. Hey, the other thing is special teams. We all know the Titans struggle on that, and I've got a couple radical ideas for you. So just go ahead and admit that we fail at that aspect of the game. And, you know, when we receive a punt, let's just take the 10 guys that are up on the line of scrimmage that attempt to block, that don't block, and let's send them back and make a half moon around the guy that's receiving the ball. And then that way we can avoid penalties, and we can also maybe have extra people back there when he fumbles it, that we got more guys around the ball to jump on it. And don't even attempt to block, because we're going to get a hold. We're going to get some kind of penalty. And just acknowledge that. Don't even try to attempt to run the ball back. Just catch it, and let's start and move on. The second thing is Stonehouse. Why don't we just get him, as opposed to kicking the ball in the middle of the field, let's just let him stand back, aim, kick the ball out of bounds every time he punts. And then that way we can avoid, once again, penalties, mistakes, returns, and just acknowledge, give up 10 extra yards. Who cares? It's better than the penalties and all the other aspects that we fail at. So those are my radical thoughts, and let's see what you think.
Thank you very much for the call. So you want a flying V punt return? Is that legal? I don't know that that's necessarily legal by the rules. So that would be a little more radical. But you know, these are thoughts worth exploring because the special teams unit is so horrendous, and to the idea of Stonehouse and the, you know, trying to coffin corner, right? Kern was so excellent at that for so long, was such a weapon in that way. And Stonehouse obviously has the boomstick type of leg, but the, you know, pinning him at the one or the drop kick type stuff that you're looking for out of him, I just don't know if he's fully comfortable with his ability, because he's not been the wow factor that we typically associate with Ryan Stonehouse all year long. And he did talk to us about that in training camp, right? How difficult it's been for him to kind of adjust to how hard this injury, last year's injury, has been for him to come back from. We're not quite a calendar year. Well, we might be pretty close to a calendar year from him getting that season-ending leg injury, unfortunately for him.
Yeah, I think we are. That was
pretty close.
Jaquan Jackson's first fumble, though, of the year, right? That was lost.
Yeah,
I know he had one other one that he recovered. But, you know, I know the special teams performance was poor again yesterday, but let's not do revisionist history and say that it's been a theme all year that Jaquan Jackson can't catch the ball, because for the most part, it's been pretty secure.
Yeah, but I never thought that I would take for granted the way that Darius Jennings and Khalif Raymond managed the special team situation as kick returners and punt returners, because they don't have anybody that can be a plus, right? It's not just that Jaquan catches the ball, but then you're moving horizontally side to side, and you negate any potential field position advantage you might be able to provide if you just get north and south with it as soon as humanly possible. And I understand he's trying to make a play. I'm not faulting the kid for trying to do things that he's been probably able to do his entire career at the college football level, but it's to a much, much different extent. It's kind of like Derrick Henry at the start of his career. Remember how finesse Derrick was at the start of his career? Because he could do that stuff at Alabama, and then it took him a while to figure out, no, I gotta pulverize people at the NFL level, and I am faster than a lot of these guys. So if I do get north and south, then I can outrun a lot of these secondary players. Let's go to Rob next.
Hey, guys. Thanks for taking my call. I wanted to just mention about Levis. After the first quarter yesterday, he had a perfect completion percentage. I think we're giving him, a lot of the blame, but the offensive line really sucks this year. And we all know in the NFL there's a trajectory for a new quarterback, and I don't think Levis has had a chance to really show his stuff because the offensive line has played so poorly. Thanks, guys. Happy Thanksgiving.
To you as well, Rob. Thank you for the call. Yeah, happy. We'll talk to you guys on Wednesday, obviously. So I suppose we'll wish you a happy Thanksgiving then. But if we don't, happy Thanksgiving to everybody out there. NPF, they didn't rotate him yesterday. Do you notice that? OJ got in there for a couple of snaps at the end of the game because they were going their jumbo sets, but they did not rotate the right tackle situation. Now, I'm not saying, again, 8 sacks, and some will be on Levis, some will be on the offensive line. J.C. Latham has been great all year long, and yesterday was not his best day.
Yeah, they were really good in the run game. Tony Pollard had his 9th career 100-yard rushing game, but I will say NPF was not dead weight.
Hideous.
Right?
Not hideous.
There was one where he kind of got out there. Who was he blocking for? Maybe it was Levis or maybe it was Pollard, where he kind of got out on his horse and is running downfield and kind of smoked somebody out on the run in the open field. I was like, oh, okay, NPF, there you are.
He's a 3rd-round draft pick. He's not an untalented player. He's not an incapable player. I just, Blaine and I and Brad and Kayla in the second hour of the pregame show, we had a good dialogue with Blaine and Brad about just the way that they've handled him in particular. The way that, it kind of goes back to Blaine's point last year about Vrabel and the way that he would pull guys when they're not performing. And he referenced it as a college mentality when that's just not the way that you're supposed to operate in the NFL. It's just so much harder on the offensive line what they've done. And it's not just that they've done that to Nick Petit-Frere. They've done it to Watson. They've done it to a couple of guys. So I disagree with their handling of the right tackle situation, even as I acknowledge that player has not held up his side of the bargain. More of your phone calls coming up next. We will also pivot back to Brian Callahan. His press conference will be live from the podium at St. Thomas Sports Park. You'll hear from the head coach. I'm Buck Rising. It's 104.5 The Zone.
The Titans went down to Houston and won 32-27 at NRG Stadium on Sunday. It's 11 o'clock. Good morning. I'm Lucas Panzica from the 104.5 The Zone studios. Brian Callahan set to meet with the media. That's coming up in just a few moments. Will Levis went 18 of 24, 278 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 1 interception. One of those 2 touchdowns, a 70-yard catch and run by Chig Okonkwo in the fourth quarter.
Play fake. Levis firing downfield. Complete. Okonkwo 40, 50. Okonkwo 40, 30, 20, 10, 5, end zone. Touchdown! Titans! Chig Okonkwo, his first touch, goes for 70 and a big 6.
That came with 9:35 to go in the fourth quarter. It gave the Titans a 3-point lead that they did not relinquish. The Texans went on to miss a 28-yard potential game-tying field goal, and then Houston had one last gasp with inside 2 minutes to go, pinned deep inside their own territory, and Harold Landry forced C.J. Stroud out the back of the end zone for a safety, one of 4 sacks by the Titans defense, all 4 coming in the fourth quarter, and the Titans win 32-27 to move to 3-8. The Texans fall to 7-5. Again, Brian Callahan set to meet with the media in just a few moments. You can hear that live here on The Zone. For all your foundation repairs and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Welcome back to the show on this Monday. I guess when the Titans win, it's been so few and far between. 3 on the season, 3-8 now. They dropped the Texans to a 7-4, if I'm not mistaken.
7-5.
7-5 are the Houston Texans at this point in time. So you're just going to do Celine highlights with all the highlights that you have to work with after the Titans win? Is this a theme now, like Sad Boy ABBA Mondays after a road game where they get smacked?
We can do Celine Mondays after a dub.
Okay, I like that. I'm not familiar with that Celine Dion song.
Me neither. I don't remember the name of it.
All right, excellent.
Shout out Rhett Bryan gave me the idea for this song.
It's giving you a full catalog of Celine Dion hits to work into the highlights. Yes, indeed, the Titans get it done. That is the Mike Keith call, Titans Radio, of course.
The one for the noon hour, cinema, I must say.
Okay, I'm excited for you. I hope that it lives up to your expectations. I put the bar pretty low for you on a regular basis, but we will see if you are able to overcome. Just like your football team. Put the bar pretty low for the football team, and they overcame in tremendous fashion yesterday. 615-737-1045, the number if you want to get involved. 32-27, the Titans get the win. They get it against the Houston Texans. It's always good to stick your thumb in the eye of a divisional rival, and you got to do that at their place yesterday. I couldn't believe how disinterested Texans fans are. And they never have a good crowd, really, when I go down there to do games, I feel like. It's a divisional game. You're the divisional leader. And as soon as Fairbairn misses that 26-yard chip shot wide left, they just left. It's just so weird to me. It's what you did that 1 year of road trips. Yeah, you said that. Which was the most disappointing to you?
I mean, both Lucas Oil and NRG were dreadful environments, but both were having pretty miserable years. Yeah. The Matt Ryan experience wasn't going great in Indy, and I think that was David Culley's year.
Oh yeah.
No. Would that have been Lovie Smith's year?
No, David Culley.
No, 2022, because 23 was D'Amico Ryan's first season.
Okay.
So Lovie Smith would have been the coach. And the Titans were the division leader. Malik Willis started that game. Derrick Henry went crazy, 200-yard game. But yeah, just sanitized, quiet, not a lot of buzz in that stadium. But they were being run by the mad preacher at the time and one of the the dysfunctional franchises in the NFL.
Not anymore. They're one of the top contenders in the AFC.
To hear that.
And
I'm surprised to hear that.
They just left.
By the way, that 28-yard field goal that Kaimi Fairbairn missed.
28, not 26.
He has not missed a field goal from less than 30 yards since his rookie year in 2017. One of the most reliable kickers in the NFL.
No, I thought for sure they were going to tie that game up and then Titans get the opportunity to close the game out. They don't do so on that next drive, but they do put C.J. Stroud in a position where he takes a safety, and the Titans get the ball back with the ability to get into the rare victory formation. To their credit, that highlight that you heard, though, was a 63-yard Calvin Ridley reception on a drive, a third and forever that I did not think that they were going to be able to complete.
Great throw.
After they got backed up. 3rd and 21, Jackson, was the yardage.
Yes.
Yeah, it was something that I did. I mean, listen, when they're in 2nd and 8, I think they're dead in the water based on just recent experience. But they certainly overcame that a couple of different times yesterday, to their credit, and ended up scoring a touchdown on that drive. Tony Pollard punched that one in from 10 yards out to give the Titans, at the time, a 17-7 lead. Now, the game did get closer throughout the course of it. I thought there was a percentage chance that we would see overtime, but that missed field goal did make all the difference in the world. I see some comments from people saying on the FNM Bank chat, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch is where you can get involved there. You can also call us if you'd like. There's phone calls to take. We'll do so shortly. 615-737-1045, the number. Ross on YouTube says the Texans lost this game, and I don't know if he's implying that the Titans did not win, but the Texans lost. I think both things can be true. I think Will Levis outplayed C.J. Stroud. I think the Texans were on the losing side because they did the thing that the Titans have done a bunch of times this year. They shot themselves in the foot in a lot of different opportunities. Turns out that's how most NFL teams lose games.
You also could have said this if the Texans had found a way to win, right? If Fairbairn makes that field goal and the Texans win in overtime, we could have been sitting here saying Titans handed them 17 points on Sunday. Titans lost the game. Texans didn't win it.
Yeah, so I think I just think that's a lame way to think about it. You know, I mean, the Titans have lost games this year. The Texans lost a game yesterday, but they got beat by the Titans. It doesn't mean that the Titans did not win the game. Brian Callahan is at the podium. We go now to St. Thomas Sports Park.
Clean, which is positive. We'll see how some of these guys come back that have been out. We will open Cheeto's window this week to return to practice. That doesn't necessarily mean he'll return to the roster to play this week. We'll see where he's at, let him practice, see where he goes from there. Hopefully that's a shorter than the full allotment of 3 weeks, but we'll just see where he's at. And then just on the game, a lot of the things that I felt last night I still feel today. There's a lot of really, really good things that happened in all 3 phases. But there's still plenty of things that we got to do better and clean up. We haven't arrived by any stretch. It was a good win, good road win against a divisional team. I thought the guys played a winning brand of football for most of the game, and it allowed us to have a chance to win. But certainly things that we got to do better, clean up, and hopefully we can do that this week. A couple things that I thought were to point out. Scored on our first 3 possessions. That was really good. To get off to a fast start is one of the things that we had talked about offensively all week. Nick Folk, just to point out, he was fantastic in the field goal game this week. I mean, tied his career long, 350-yarders. That's pretty impressive. I think our yardage total was the second most the Texans had given up. That's a good defense that we played, and we played well offensively for most of the game, even with some of the things that we did wrong. 40 rushing yards are the fewest allowed. That we've allowed, and against a team that's very heavily centered on their run game being productive. So defensively, that was really encouraging to see that, to knock the run out. And then the guys that stepped up in reserve roles, Darryl Worley did a really nice job stepping in when Hook got sick, and Jarvis and Baker continued to play really well. Jerome Baker had a good game. And then I thought Kenneth Murray, sort of under the radar, had a really, really, really nice game as I watched it again last night and this morning. Just really thought he actually switched positions too. We moved him over to the mic and Jerome to the other spot, the dime backer, and I thought that really helped him as well. So that was good. Really, really good performance by a bunch of guys. So with that, I'll let you guys go.
Is the quarterback you've seen in the last 3 weeks, if you get that guy, is that a long-term quarterback solution for this franchise?
Yeah, I hesitate to make any proclamations of anything like that, but I've just been really happy with the way that Will's progressed. He's played winning football from that position really over the last 3 weeks, and it's just like to see it continue. And I think there's some things for Will that he can do better. There's a couple of things, just even progression-wise for him, or getting his eyes to the right spot faster, to where he could play really well. He played a really good football game. I think there's another level for him when it comes to finding a completion, taking less sacks. Some of those things were situational. I know one or two of them we were sort of in field goal range, and I was very kind of strictly instructed him to make sure we're being smart with the football, and he's just trying to make sure we didn't take any major losses. So one or two of those, he just sort of runs up in the pocket. But, I think everything that he's done, the progression he's shown, the growth that he's shown is really encouraging, and I'd like to keep it going. And I think there's still, again, another level that we can get to and unlock from him. So
early in the season about some of the wild throws from the past kind of disappear. They're very much back. What's changed that those kind of throws have reemerged?
I think there's a comfort level between Will and I in terms of the style of throws. I got a better feel for the things that he throws really well, using the players the right way for us. We've gotten better at putting those guys in better positions. And then Will's confidence to throw them. We've gotten some great looks. We've gotten exactly what we had hoped we would get on some of those long balls, and just really well executed. He's got a lot of confidence right now throwing the ball down the field, and he put a couple of really great throws, which they make him look easy sometimes, but those aren't necessarily easy throws that he made, and he put them right on the money. So more of that we can do, the better. And if you can find a way to get 7-8 explosives in a game, you're going to put yourself in a pretty good spot.
Sure, better than maybe he had prior to these last 2 or 3 weeks. Maybe, I guess, aside from the sacks, is he?
Yeah, I think he's done a nice job with that. We definitely got to get the sack numbers down. I mean, that's not something that we can't give up 8 sacks a game and feel like it's going to be good enough. So that comes from all places. That's partly on Will. It's on the line. That's on me. There's one or two of those things they had covered pretty good. They kind of forced him to hold the ball longer. And so we can all do a better job to get that part fixed. But as far as Will just playing under pressure and playing with pressure, I thought he's gotten better every time we've played this year with him. And so that's encouraging.
Maturity-wise, is he doing a better job of not letting the highs go so high and the lows go so low?
Yeah,
he seems calmer in every aspect.
I think that's a good observation, and I would agree with it that there's a sense of confidence and there's a sense of calmness, much more letting the game come to him, not trying to do too much, not holding the wheel too tight, just playing football. Letting your quarterback instincts take over and play the way that you need to play and take completions, and then when we get opportunities to take big ones, take the big one. But there's definitely been a growth in his approach to negative plays and his approach to his process. Those things have all been really encouraging. And when you get to the point where you get it tested, like he did against the Texans, where you throw a really critical spot, lose the lead, we're in position to go take a 2-score lead, and now we're down 1, for him not to really overly react and just it was a bad play, and we got a whole lot of football left to make some good ones, and he did ultimately at the end of the game to help us win. So there's been a lot of growth for Will, I think, in a really short amount of time, and I think it's been really fun for me to see that from him, and really encourring.
Will had mentioned how you
that was
guys,
a lot. Hang on. Let's go ahead, TD. Why don't you start? I'll come back.
Cool.
Yeah.
He had mentioned how you guys, tweaked a previous touchdown for NWI, and it showed up in this game.
Mm-hmm.
That process, how much involved is he in that process, and is that something that you guys haven't done as much previously?
No, he's always involved in some of the thoughts. We hit a seam bender versus quarters against the Chargers, a very similar style, and then this one we set up the same way, and we just sort of pumped it. We sort of made it feel like we were going to try to wrap the backer in front of the safety, and we just took it vertical. I think it's good. We got a good collaboration amongst the quarterback room in general, all 3 of those quarterbacks, and Bo and Nick and then myself, of finding the things that we all feel really good about when it comes to generating explosive plays and marrying things off of the things that we've done. And I think we do a good job of that as a collective. And Will's always got input into that, and I know that was a play that he liked early in the game. I liked it as well, and it came up in the perfect spot.
As you see that maturity that you just mentioned, is that something that's coming more to, hey, let's do this week because I saw this?
Yeah, that's part of it. You know, that's growing trust too. That's me trusting what he sees and how he sees it. That's him trusting me to put the right call at the right time. And so those things have definitely built, you know, over the last couple of weeks. And I feel really good about the feedback I get from him. And I think he would feel the same about the positions I keep trying to put him in to have success. And so it's been a good growth between the two of us, and I'm excited about that.
2-yard sacks.
Yeah.
Bill brought those up yesterday too. Is that kind of what he's instructed to do when he feels pressure, is step up, or is that kind of a play-by-play?
It's a play-by-play. I mean, there's sometimes where there's some things that he can probably understand better about rush patterns. You know, particularly when you're helping on edges. You know, those guys aren't going to wide rush. You know, we're stoning a wide rush and they're going to loop. Or as they get stoned, they get vertical, and they usually don't rush past the quarterback, so they're going to spin back inside. And so when he thinks he sees a lane, and you go to step up, you know, you just got to understand that defensive end's coming back inside quickly. That lane's not real. It's sort of a mirage, if you will. And those are the things that he's got to better understand about, you know, when there's a help and what the game's going to look like and where the rush lanes are going to be. And those things just come with time and playing and understanding more of that. But yeah, there's definitely some things that, particularly in field goal range, where you're just, you know, we got points on the board. Be smart with the ball. If you don't have it, then just try to get what you can. And he was instructed to do that once or twice. So some of those things are on me more than they're on him. So that's just part of the give and take, and the part of the game, understanding the situations in the game where we can be aggressive and where we don't want to be.
After the Chargers game, we talked about maybe his hesitance to get rid of the ball being a side effect of playing more within himself. Mm-hmm. And then yesterday you look at the time to throw, and it's like on the sacks it's like 3-5, and otherwise it's like 2-3, and the stark divide there. Is that like a next step for him to know that you can create a little bit, you can throw the ball away, finding out what to do after? Like, it seems like that first read, if it's there, he's all over it on time, and otherwise
there's definitely 2 or 3 of those plays where there's part of the progression where you might find a way to get back to a guy that's either coming open or would be open. The other part of it too is just like you said, the awareness of, look, it's 1st and 10. Let's not take the sack. You know, just launch that thing out of bounds and let us live the fight without a loss and a sack. And again, those things there's a momentum feel to those things. There's a group morale thing when you're giving up sacks like that. Those things all factor in. So just, take the heat off of those guys, and if you don't have it, throw it away. But those are all the things that we're still working through, and you see the improvement, and you see the things that he can still do better and help the offense out as a whole. And then there's a part of it where you start to figure out when and where you can create, and I think that part's coming for him.
So how do you attack coaching that? Is that grinding film with him and pointing out specific examples? Or are you doing something in practice in particular to?
You try to work it when you can. It's hard to simulate those things. But yeah, you try to point it out on tape as much as possible and find ways to drill it, that you can see if you can at least manufacture something that he can feel and draw on during a game. So that's all part of the process, and those are all things that Bo coaches on him a ton. Let me go back. I know you had your question.
Going back to Will and just talking about his calmness, I guess, is what you talked about. To what do you attribute that? Like, because every coach is trying to find what switch to flip with his young quarterback. Can you pinpoint exactly why or when that happened?
Yeah, I mean, I really think it was being able to take with the injury, he was sort of afforded an opportunity to step back and maybe reflect on the early part of the season and reflect on what he wanted to look like going forward. And then you get a chance to watch a guy like Mason play too, who does some veteran quarterback things, and I think a combination of all of that stuff, has really helped his perspective when he came back, and then all of a sudden you string two games together that are pretty good and improved from the last time out, and you start to gain some confidence, and now you start to see the ball get thrown with more confidence and more accuracy. So I think it's been a steady build. I can't pinpoint one thing or another that would have led to that. There was no aha moment where I think he's just really self-evaluated and done a really nice job of where he needed to improve, and I think he's done a great job of improving it.
Good problem to have, but when Cheeto is back and healthy, tough to find a place to get him on the field with Jarvis and Darryl playing well.
Yeah, those guys are doing a great job. It's certainly hard to take one off the field. But as you can see, we need guys to be ready to play, and we'll see how he comes through the practice window and make that determination. But Cheeto's a good player, and I'm glad we're going to have him available to us because we got still quite a few football games left, and we're going to need all the bodies and all the capable players we can find. So can't make any determination on that until I see him practice, but hopeful that he'd be ready to roll and be able to help us.
You passed to Collins. It looked maybe that Mike Brown kind of pulled off the hit just a little bit.
Yeah.
Did you see that to be the case? And I assume if that was it related to last week?
You'd have to ask him. It certainly wasn't. It certainly didn't have the same aggression that the last one did. The other thing is that he really by spot in the defense, like he should have already been there. That he's got to be under the goalpost in that particular coverage. So he's a little bit late getting to the spot, and whether he just didn't pull the trigger on the hit or wasn't as aggressive because of it, it's hard for me to say. I'll let him answer that question. But I thought we had a chance to get a shot on that ball and see if you can get the receiver out of bounds or get the ball off the body, and ultimately didn't get that part done.
Again, yesterday special teams wasn't good enough.
Sure.
You and Colt take comfort that special teams around the league were a mess yesterday and everybody's joining your train?
No, I don't take any comfort in that. We have our own issues that we've got to do a good job of. Yesterday was hard for me to quantify. You know what I mean? Where we got a kickoff return bottled up. We got arms and bodies all over him, and he somehow squirts out of it and ends up being a huge play early in the game. And those are plays we're trying to eliminate. And then Q goes to aggressively field a punt and muffs it. And if those are the mistakes that we can't have, they're critical. But I certainly don't take any comfort in anybody else having special teams issues. I think we've made a lot of improvements. I think after that kickoff, we covered really well. I think they started inside their own 20 twice on coverage. They were aggressive to take the ball out. But those things are things that we can't have if we want to be a really good football team. And anytime you turn the ball over in any phase is not good. So we got to find ways to continue to get better. I do think our punt coverage and our punt protection has really gotten better. We've done a really nice job covering. I think Bryce Oliver stepped up in a big way too in some of those gunner reps. But certainly things we got to be better at. And I don't take any solace or comfort in anybody else's mishaps. I just know that we got to play better than we have, and we can't have those errors.
Around a position coach or a coordinator who has had as much go wrong as Colt has had this year, and why is he unable? You're saying he's able to fix one area, then a problem's popping up in another area, and it seems like there's no fix.
Yeah, there's been things that we've done well. We've fixed some issues. We've fixed our punt protection. We fixed the punt coverage. Those things have been really a lot better over the last handful of weeks. But I feel like that's sort of what our team has done this year in general in all three phases, where there's been you fix one thing and now all of a sudden another problem shows up, and we've had this sort of inconsistency throughout the course of the season that's led to some of the games that we felt like we had chances to win that we didn't. And turnovers is certainly one part of it. We give up some of those red zone touchdowns. There's been areas across the entire team where we're trying to fix one problem, another one pops up, and the good teams in the league do what we did yesterday. We played like a good football team when it came to overcoming mistakes and finding ways to fight through those things. But then there's also the teams that are going to be in it at the end are the ones that don't make those mistakes. And we've got to find ways to not make those mistakes in all phases. I mean, we've had plenty of them on offense, defense, and special teams. So it's not a one phase problem or a one person thing. It's all of us trying to do a better job to make sure we're more consistent in all the phases of the game.
Consider sitting Jaquan after the fumble. I know some coaches have a relationship with that.
That's generally not my philosophy, for the same reason it's if a quarterback throws interception, you just go out and throw it again. I think you show guys that you got belief in them, and they tend to respond that way most of the time. There's a time and a place for that, certainly. I'm not saying that's never going to happen, but you got to go out there and field the ball, and you got to make a play with the ball when you get a chance. And I'm not a huge believer in just like shutting a guy down because he made a mistake. We need everybody on our roster to play and play well, and so get back out there and do it again.
Does it get kind of frustrating though? Because it seems like it's almost at a point now where, hey, you field the ball and don't fumble it. Mm-hmm. That's an accomplishment, as opposed to like looking for a big return, especially with the the coverage unit giving up so many returns.
Yeah, I mean we're trying to find more. I think there's some things that Q's done well, and there's some things he's got to do better when it comes to returning. I wouldn't say. I mean, he hasn't had a problem necessarily fielding the ball. He's gotten hit a few times and put it on the ground. So those to me are two sort of different entities. But if he was having a major problem catching the ball, then yeah, we'd certainly look for someone to go in there and catch the ball better if that was the case. I just think he made an aggressive decision in the game to go up and try to field it and return it. I'm trying to make a play, and if you do that, you got to make it. If you make that decision, you got to go make the play, and he didn't in that particular spot, and that's a big error.
Would you like somebody to return the ball better?
What's that?
Wouldn't you like somebody to return the ball better?
Oh, yeah, I'd like to get more out of our return game, certainly. We've had some good moments and not enough of them. So, yeah, we're still working to find ways to generate more in the return game when we can.
Just to be clear on the special teams thing entirely, sorry.
Yeah.
You're saying we fix one problem, another one crops up, and you're making it sound like it's the same as offense and defense. Do you regard special teams problems in the same basket as problems you've had on offense and defense this year?
Well, I think there's moments where they've been very similar. Yeah, I mean we've made sort of game-killing plays on offense that have lost us games, just like we've done on special teams. And so those things it's all three phases play together, and you got to be able to complement each other. And there's been times we've done that well, and there's been times